Hi, it's Nicole, and today I want to talk about what I guess could be considered sort of bookish FOMO. I recently read Feminism Is For Everybody by Bell Hooks with the Feminist Orchestra book club, and for me that was a really valuable and interesting experience, and not least of all because it was the first time that I've ever really been participating in a book club with the discussions and following along the videos and that kind of thing. And I felt like I got a lot out of that experience from being able to share my point of view, but also critically being able to hear the points of view of all these different people who are reading the same text as me at the same time, and everybody being able to bounce off of that. And it made me consider things and connect the dots that I maybe would not have connected if other people hadn't brought up different things that made me kind of think that's actually connected to something else that I've read that is probably helping form my opinion in this direction. And it kind of makes you realize all of the things that you didn't know or didn't consider that you were also taking to the text with you that maybe other people haven't, or maybe that other people are taking different things to the text that you've never encountered before. And while I found that experience really, really valuable, for just reasons of having other things that I'm doing at the moment, I'm not going to be able to participate in the current Feminist Orchestra book club read. And it's just sort of made me think about how enjoyable that experience was and how much I wish I could kind of have that more regularly throughout my reading experiences generally. Now, I've mentioned before on this channel that I am not a particularly fast reader, and I would certainly call myself a slower than average reader. And so that kind of means that I tend to be a little bit more picky, I guess, about what I'm picking up, because even though I have no problem putting a book to the side, I also know that it takes a lot more investment from me of time, and it takes a lot more effort sometimes to dedicate to books that I'm not as fussed about. I know that if I were a faster reader, I wouldn't have as many qualms about just picking up anything that someone else said that they were doing for a read-along or that kind of thing, because I would know that, well, I can get it done within a week or something, but that's just not how my reading life works. But it also kind of leads to this thing of where I really want to have more of those bookish discussions and conversations around just all sorts of books, but I also realize that there are a lot of books that I'm interested in that other people aren't necessarily going to be drawn to as well. I know that even though a lot of the people that I follow and the people who follow me might have similar interests and similar book tastes, that still doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're all going to be reading the same books at the same time. So I guess I know that while I like challenging the kinds of things that I read, and I do read pretty eclectically, and like I said, I am happy to put down a book if I realize, I don't know, 100 pages in I'm just not feeling it, or 50 pages or less. But I'm not super willing to pick up a book that I know that I'm only reading purely for other people, just because it seems like, for one, I just don't have that much time, and for two, it feels a little bit hollow, but I know that that's coming from a place where I just really enjoy those bookish conversations. And I guess all of this got me thinking, and I was wondering, what do you people feel about that, or if you've thought about it at all? How do you kind of resolve that, or are you not really interested in participating in the discussions like that, or do you just prefer listening to what other people are saying about books that you might never actually bother to pick up? Because I know that I don't necessarily plan on reading every book that sounds interesting that other people have reviewed and that I've thought sounded like it might be up my alley. I mean, I may or I may not, I don't know. It just depends how things go. So I know it's not realistic to expect that every single book that you hear that sounds great you'll actually, go out and read. But I just was thinking about, I guess it all goes back to having such a good experience with reading as part of a book club. And I really like the idea of BookTube as a community and being able to potentially just have this crew of people who you can really discuss these things about. I find that even if the discussions that come out of it aren't necessarily about the specific book that someone might be reviewing, and it's about the ideas from that, I feel like that's also really interesting. So if I ever come across someone doing a review about a book that I haven't read, but the topic is really interesting to me and I have other things that I can bring to it from other books that I've read or other documentaries that I've seen, or anything like that, I feel like that's valid as well. So I feel like there are other ways to participate, but I guess all of this stuff was just sort of around bubbling in my head, and I thought I would just throw it out there as a discussion video and see what anybody else had to say, had to add, had to question about any of that kind of thing. And that's really all there is to this. So yeah, how do you handle bookish FOMO? Even though I don't really like that term, I'm going to use it anyway because I think it's good enough for the purposes of this video. And that's it. I'll see you again next time. Bye.